Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Kindinger and I am the practice leader for Sub-Saharan Africa here at Frontier View. Here at Frontier View, we've just released our global events to watch for 2023. These look at a range of disruptive events that could have a significant impact on multinationals and their plans for next year. Today, I'd like to walk you through some of the regional specific events to watch for Sub-Saharan Africa. As a reminder, these events to watch are significant, disruptive events that fall outside of our base case assumptions for 2023. These are things that have a likelihood greater than 10% and are important enough that we think that they should be on your radar over the course of next year. They should be monitored as part of your risk mitigation. In some cases, it may make sense to build contingency plans for these events if they are substantially disruptive to your plans in Sub-Saharan Africa next year. Every year, several of these events to watch that we flag take place. So a word of warning that these are not just hypotheticals and may actually materialize. So the chart that you are seeing has on the x-axis the likelihood that events in Sub-Saharan Africa will occur, and on the y-axis you can see how quickly it will impact business. So events that are closer to the top will happen more quickly and affect businesses faster. Events at the bottom are likely to materialize in terms of their impact a lot slower. The size of the bubble is the relative scale of the impact for multinationals if the event were to take place. So with that said, for this year, we wanted to highlight the following events for Sub-Saharan Africa. Although we have 8 main events to watch, we would like to highlight 4 main events. And the first one is an event where Ghana defaults on its debts. And we are assigning a roughly 20% probability to this. So in this event, what would happen is the government would default on its Eurobond repayments in the second quarter of 2023, and this would happen most likely after it would fail to negotiate an IMF bailout by the end of Q1 2023. The impact of this event would be that it would it would result in further credit rating downgrades for Ghana, significant capital outflows from the country. This would trigger a very sharp currency weakening, even more so than we've seen in 2023. And a significant increase in inflationary pressures in the country, which is already at double digits. In addition, public sector demand would collapse very suddenly, and private sector demand would also face very significant contractions. So a fairly disruptive event that we assign about a 20% likelihood to. The next major event that I'd like to highlight is a free float of the Naira that takes place after the February 2023 election in Nigeria. And the main impact of this event is that it would significantly improve access to foreign currency in Nigeria. As we all know, foreign currency access in the country is extremely difficult and getting worse. So this would be a major positive development for multinationals. What this event looks like is after the election, the new government effectively floats the Naira. It abandons its rather restricted approach to currency management. And this would likely occur for pro-business candidates, either the Labour Party's Peter Obi or the PDP's Atiku Abubakar wins the election and then floats the Naira probably within weeks of assuming office. This would probably take place around May 2023. This would result in multiple exchange rates converging. In other words, the NAFEX rate, the INE window, and the parallel market rate would merge, and crucially, we would expect most FX shortages to be eliminated. So this would be a significantly positive event for multinationals, especially in terms of their ability to access foreign currency. The third event that I'd like to highlight is in South Africa. So this is a 25 to 30% probability of a pro-Zuma ANC president taking power in South Africa. So effectively unseating or ousting Mr. Ramaphosa. So the way that this could materialize is if President Cyril Ramaphosa's position becomes increasingly untenable over the next 6 or maybe 12 months as a result of the corruption scandals that he's currently involved in, as well as weakening economic growth aggravated by even worse power shortages. This would result in the ANC slumping in popularity in the polls ahead of the election in 2024. So this would culminate in Mr. Ramaphosa's ouster, probably in the second half of 2023, but at least well ahead of the election in April 2024. He would then be replaced by a pro-Zuma candidate, someone who's much further left on the political spectrum, who crucially abandons fiscal discipline and pledges to accelerate the use of land expropriation without compensation. This would result in investors becoming significantly spooked. Credit rating downgrades for the country would follow, and the rand would depreciate dramatically. Investor sentiment would also, private sector sentiment would also dwindle. And the final event I'd like to highlight is a positive event where the civil war in Ethiopia ends definitively. So we have seen a truce reached in Ethiopia over the last couple of months at the end of 2022. But the longer-term outlook for the civil conflict remains uncertain, and the truce could be broken at any time. So this positive scenario, which we've assigned, or this positive event to which we've assigned a likelihood of 20%, would see several rounds of talks between the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, and the Ethiopian federal government, resulting in a definitive and lasting peace agreement. The process of reaching this agreement would be aided by the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Ethiopian territory and a commitment by all signatories to the agreement, to the deal, to pursue constitutional reform that addresses some of the root causes of the conflicts. For example, the mechanisms by which federal funds for regions and provinces are allocated and administered. If this were to take place, if the war were to be ended definitively, we would likely see a series of pro-business liberal economic reforms that have been put on hold for a number of years, including a number of currency depreciations or potentially even a freer float of the birr. And we would also see an accelerated process of liberalizing state-dominated industries. The government had made a lot of progress before the civil war started about 2 years ago, but we would see this momentum restart. As a result, foreign direct investment inflows would surge and donor engagement would also increase, and this would result in a significant improvement in economic growth in Ethiopia. This is quite significant for multinationals because Ethiopia has been a very attractive market for a long time, but the country's attractiveness has taken a bit of a dive as a result of the civil war. So we could potentially see Ethiopia regain its pre-pandemic economic momentum, which would be very positive. Fantastic. So we do have a number of other events that you should be monitoring potentially in 2023, but for more information or a detailed walkthrough of these, please contact your client relationship director. And if you haven't yet, take a look at our Global Events to Watch report on our portal, which has been recently published.